Greetings, Earthlings. Welcome back to 7th Street.
Condition yellow, air raid, air raid. Extreme emergency. All officers take charge, Operation Eager. 1310, yellow alert. This is not a test.
The end is very fucking nigh indeed. So, in the spirit of this season that we're all unfortunately being forced to live through, I thought that we would spotlight some apocalyptic horror films, and the first of which here is one that never really received a wide release. This Is Not a Test is an early 60s apocalyptic sci-fi survival horror that's set in the outskirts of California during those crucial moments after a take shelter order is broadcast over the airwaves. This is an incredibly underrated film that, in my opinion, rivals some of the better-known, bigger-budget nuclear holocaust films out there. Everyone knows, of course, of the TV movie The Day After, starring Steve Guttenberg, and if you follow my channel, you're probably aware of the Toho masterpiece Catastrophe 1999. The movie Threads is another fantastic and vastly underrated nuclear apocalypse movie that deserves a little bit more recognition. But unlike those movies, This Is Not a Test never really had an official release, and to this day is completely looked over by everyone. Although it routinely pops up on sci-fi movie packs, it's impossible to find a review on YouTube, or even on IMDb for that matter. Although low budget, the movie manages to be effectively dark and cynical toward human nature. It feels like an accurate portrayal of paranoia in the 1960s.
We're being attacked.
We can't.
I tell you, we're being attacked.
How do you know? The man didn't say anything about being attacked.
Don't you understand what a yellow alert is? Well, what is it?
It means we're in a state of emergency.
But still don't
I tell you, we're under attack. We've got to get to the nearest shelter. There must be one in the city.
Come on, Joe, let's get out of here.
Nobody's going anywhere.
The movie begins abruptly, no credits, no music, no fade up, just BAM! We're introduced to Sheriff Officer Dan Coulter, presumably the father of Ann Coulter. In the wee hours of the morning, a call comes in from over the radio warning all highway patrol to create roadblocks outside of the city limits. Officer Coulter speeds to the top of a hill range which overlooks the city below and begins to stop the cars that trickle in. This is how we are introduced to our cast of characters. The first car that stops is an old man with his granddaughter. The second is an 18-wheeler with a driver and a hitchhiker that he picked up, an older couple on their way to the airport with their poodle Timmy, and a drunk couple from San Francisco, whom are my personal favorite characters in this movie. They have some of the best character quirks and some genuinely funny dialogue.
Didn't I tell you I had a cool feeling? Everything was going to be groovy when I started the game. Well, everything's worked out up till now, hasn't it? You got another bottle, baby. Now, I know you didn't get that stoned on what you had in there. Now, don't let this badge-happy cat bug you. I'll buy your ticket back. If the world's coming to an end and me and my chick want ended standing in front of a bar, that's none of your business. I'm not sleeping, baby. I'm just too much of a coward to keep my eyes open when you're driving. Dig?
I want to believe you.
You gotta believe me, baby.
Immediately, the group begins to wonder what the purpose of the roadblock is, but the gruff, yet cool and collected sheriff reassures everyone that the situation is under control. Just at that moment, the sheriff realizes that the hitchhiker that the panel truck driver picked up is a wanted criminal in the county, and a short chase scene breaks out, complete with typical cops shooting at the man with his back turned. How does this factor into the overall plot? Well, it doesn't, but it sort of does come up toward the end of the film.
Wait a minute, Clint. Don't run. Come on, Clint, get in the truck. You can't get away. Come on, get in the truck.
Tensions begin to rise as our potboiler of characters become increasingly anxious. They begin to see some cracks in the temperament of their leader here. At this point, you can't quite put your finger on it, but you can tell that in a strange way, the sheriff is enjoying all of this, his authority and his power over everyone. As the sheriff's radio transmits the code yellow possibility of a nuclear attack, the group loses their minds, especially Sheriff Dan Coulter. When Joe attempts to get in his car and leave, the sheriff cold cocks him and handcuffs him to the bumper of his car. He then takes everyone's car keys, then orders them to clear out the back of the panel truck, as Sheriff Dan Coulter's brilliant plan is to turn the 18-wheeler into a bomb shelter. What's his rationale for this?
People survived Hiroshima and they didn't have any warning.
Good plan, Chief. At this point, the movie kind of becomes a soap opera. There's this little side story about the truck driver and Karen falling for each other while her husband and the poodle look on. The rest of the group unloads the Discount World truck and partakes in some of its contents, i.e. booze.
It may not be the best tasting stuff, but it'll sure make you feel better.
Well, that is until Officer Buzzkill here destroys it all. This is something that I never quite understood. The sheriff remarks that he doesn't want to be stuck with that stuff in the shelter, but why? I mean, there's a good chance that they might not survive the next hour. Why does he care if they have a case of booze in the truck with them? This is where we start to clearly see that Sheriff Dan Coulter, who was once our hero of the film, is nothing more than a power-hungry psychopath.
What do you want me to do? Go out and fight the war myself?
All right, that's enough!
I'm warning all of you. If I have to use force to keep order here, I will.
As the group finishes up preparing their makeshift bomb shelter, a young man on a Vespa pulls up and whisks away Gramps and his granddaughter. Somehow the Vespa hotshot knows an awful lot about surviving a nuclear attack and explains to them that they should head to an old abandoned mine just a few miles away. Gramps says, "Without me, yo, I'm going to go stand in the middle of the field and watch it all end, cause, I don't know, Gramps is a G, I guess."
I'm going to the top of that mountain. I'm going to climb up there and watch it happen. I don't particularly want to be around when this thing's over with.
When the sheriff decides to move the panel truck slightly up the road, the wanted criminal from before emerges from the bushes to try and steal one of the cars that was left behind. But if you remember, the sheriff took everyone's keys. This causes the criminal Clint to absolutely lose his mind. He starts knocking over chicken cages and then proceeds to kick them and throw them around. Now, I'm no vegetarian or nothing, but there's really no need to harm live chickens. I get it. There were really no animal rights in the early 60s, but come on, guys, you're not Ruggero Deodato. If you thought that that was going to be the end of the animal violence, you're sorely mistaken. Back in the panel truck, the group begins to nervously await the bomb. They pace back and forth in a state of anxiety, all except for Sheriff Coulter, who's preoccupied with a staring contest with Timmy the Poodle. The sheriff then decides to strangle the poor pooch in front of its owner in order to conserve oxygen.
Won't do you any good to cry. It's all over. A little while you'll be thanking me.
Now, it's right about that time that the group completely freaks out and demands to be led out of the truck, where they run into a group of men looking to steal supplies and blonde women. Bad news for Karen. Just when you think things couldn't get any worse, the group manages to climb back inside of the truck, but this time locking out the sheriff. The camera pulls back on the former group leader, pounding on the panel truck door, demanding to be let back in, and then... Let me tell you, I really dig this movie. One of the things that I really like is I really like that it's told in real time. It's that 60 odd minutes between the first attack warning and the end. And I think that that's what adds a sense of realism to the story, which is undoubtedly where the film's strengths lie. You see, the movie was made in 1962, the height of the Cold War. The Cuban Missile Crisis just happened that year. This very situation very nearly literally actually happened. In historical context alone, this movie is worth seeing. After all, we still have irresponsible lard heads that chant things like "Nuke 'em." This is not a great film on a technical level at all. The camera work is shoddy, the lighting is awful, and it's clearly under-directed. It's all about the story, man. From the way that the screenplay was constructed, to the bravery of the writer who is willing to portray the lack of civility in a realistic manner. Y'all really need to see this film.
Now, if they use the hydrogen warhead, then what?
In that case, it's over. No Chuck, no Mountain, no nothing. We can't think that way.
Being that it's in the public domain, you can now watch This Is Not a Test for free basically anywhere. I know that they have like a few different versions here on YouTube, so I know that you guys have a lot of free time, what with the lockdown. So do yourself a favor, watch this movie, and reference this film.
I'm just gonna stay here and watch you cats work. Go ahead, or he's gonna have us both handcuffed. No, go ahead, honey.